Hello, everyone. Welcome to Across the Pond, the podcast where I talk to people from all around the world. And today we're actually speaking with someone from across the pond. Well, technically speaking, not the pond in terms of the Atlantic divide, but the Pacific divide. I get to speak with Lorenzo today. He is a man that was born in Singapore but currently living in China. So this conversation was really cool because we go a little bit into the whole Chinese culture versus Singaporeanese culture. I don't know how you say that. But anyway, we go into a little bit about that. We learn a little bit about Lorenzo himself and how he likes video games and he likes high fantasy. He tells us just a little bit about his job, kind of. He talks a little bit about, not anything specific, but a little bit about his job. And then we talk about guns and how Lorenzo, being from Asia, wants to come to the States and do stuff with guns. Like, that's really cool to me. You don't hear a lot of people in the world talk about weapons. So that's pretty cool. Anyway, I hope you can enjoy this conversation that I had with... Oh my goodness, I can't even speak. I hope you can enjoy this conversation that I had with Lorenzo because I really did enjoy this one. This is really, really cool.
Hey, Daniel, can you hear me? Yeah, I can hear you too as well. Great to hear from you because I guess it's been 1 month since we set this up.
Yeah, it's been a while. Hold on 1 second. Do I sound better now?
You sound a bit deeper. I guess that's better, but the
Okay.
volume is a little bit louder now. Yeah.
Do you want me to use this one or the other one?
This one is better. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, I'll stick with this one then. It's been a month or so it's been a long time coming. It's kind of funny because when you filled out that form that I put out, oh my goodness, maybe at least another 40 other people filled it out. And so I've been trying
Whoa.
dude, I got a huge response. And what's even cooler is that after I reached out to a number of people, there was at least another 30 that reached out to me. I mean, I'm probably exaggerating on the numbers just a little bit, but there was an overwhelming response of people that filled out this form. And so I've been frantically trying to make it all work. And because of my work schedule and everything, I can't really do weekdays because of work and whatnot. Like I don't know when I can get off work sometimes because it could be a long day or a short day. So I usually stick the chats to the weekends. And so sometimes I'll have 3 or 4, different chats about an hour long on the weekends, each day. And it's like, oh man, but today was a nice easy day. So yeah.
Yeah, oh my, I did not know that you had like 40, 30 invites for, so I guess that's the power of Reddit for you because how I got to know you was through that Reddit post and I didn't even know that there were so many people clamoring to be on your show, but that's a good thing, that means that your show is now quite successful.
I would like to think so. I mean, here's the thing, the whole, my goal, I guess I'll say with the podcast is I don't necessarily care if I get people coming back each week. Like, I mean, that would be awesome. That would be cool, have high numbers and whatnot. But I think what the overall goal is that I want someone, even if they only listen to one episode, that episode helps them in any way, whether that be with dealing with like mental health or whether that be with dealing, through, they might have some sort of physical disability and, something someone says, encourages them. Like, I just want this podcast to be, even if it's just one episode, an encouragement to someone, and that's the whole goal of it. So it's really nice to have all these people reaching out, and then when I do speak with a decent amount of people, when I actually talk with them like you and I are right now, they're like, yeah, this is a really cool idea. I really like it. I'm like, thanks, dude. So I mean, if anything, I'm reaching, someone, and that's really all I can ask for.
Yeah, I think you are right because I can't exactly remember which show it was that I watched of yours, but that was quite a long time ago, and I remember just listening to some of the more recent shows. You had one with someone who hosted a sort of a game meetup session, get along thing, but then it got affected by the coronavirus or something. But I think you're right that a lot of what you do is quite valuable to people and it feels a little bit like the talk shows that I used to watch. Like the
Yeah.
Colbert Reports, like the Daily Show, and all these things.
Yeah.
So it's a great podcast.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Tell me a little bit about yours. I'm curious. I'll ask you about it again towards the end, just so that we can kind of wrap everything up. But what's yours about?
Oh, so mine is for my podcast is called Light Up the Stage, and Light Up the Stage is a podcast about my journeys through the world of public speaking.
Ooh.
I was a member of a club which focused primarily on leadership and public speaking for about 7 years now. This is my 7th year, and it's been a very, very long journey. Met a lot of people, learned a lot of things, and really it's just me recounting little stories about my little romp through that place. Because usually this club, there are a lot of these clubs in America, but in my place, which you know where I'm currently residing in the Middle Kingdom, China, and I don't think that there are a lot of people with a perspective with a perspective of clubs there, because one of the things that I realized is that people who live in China, they speak English as a second language. And when you speak English as a second language, there are a lot of considerations when you are doing a workshop or a speech in front of such a crowd. So you got to adjust. So there's a lot of little things that's about public speaking that maybe you would not learn in a place where English is the very first language. And I tried to go through a little bit of techniques. So the first few episodes, I went through a lot of technique. Then I realized, it's okay, but I think people would rather hear my little stories about it. So I try to inject more and more of these things. Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool. I haven't heard of a podcast where someone takes, especially so, I don't mean to be rude or racist in any way, but is English your first language?
Oh yeah, it is. It is.
Okay.
One of the things is that I'm not actually from China. I'm actually from Singapore. But most people will think, it's just 4 hours down the road. But
Gotcha.
but in Singapore, English is the first language because we need to work and then we need to communicate with all the other people in Singapore. You know, the Indians, the Malays. We have a common language so that it's easier to talk across the dinner table and not have internal bickering and so on. Yeah.
Gotcha. Where I was going with that was I was going to say it's kind of interesting to hear. Well, of course, English is not your first language, but someone, someone from another country though, not being say Britain or America or even maybe Canada, like someone who English might not necessarily be considered the first language, is I guess what I'm trying to say. Take a podcast where they talk about public speaking. That's kind of cool to me. I haven't heard of something like that. Have you found that content, trying to figure out, like what to talk about when it comes to that? Do you find that difficult or is it rather easy?
Oh, when you ask this, I'm a little bit embarrassed to say it's quite easy to plan out the contents because I have about 7 years of little stories to tell, but it's quite hard to put it into podcast form because one of the things that I wanted to do with the podcast was to have it be little stories about that I can string together to get about a 30-minute podcast running. And sometimes the little stories are so small that it's not really worth it to put it into a 30-minute podcast. So I gotta edit and adjust. I have quite a lot of main themes I want to talk about. Like I just finished setting up the next 12 episodes this week, and then I thought, hey, I want to I want to talk about these things. But I know that down the line I have to cancel out some of them because some of them are really, really small topics, and I would need to merge and all this. So doing it just translating all the little stories from my mind to the podcast is probably a little bit different from how I imagine, because I imagine that talking in a podcast would be easy because that's what I do almost every single week. But then there's a lot of editing, there's a lot of like thinking, planning to do. So it's kind of like writing a speech, but it's kind of not like it as well.
Gotcha. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'll ask you a little bit more about your podcast later on because there's a few things I want to ask you before, all that. So tell me a little bit, because you said that, you're from Singapore originally and now you're in China. How does that go? Like, so, where does the I'm going to go to China come in? Is that for university or was that like I just want to go to China?
That has something to do with my family. So my family is originally like 3 generations before they were from China and from a little province in China. And then some of my really, really old relatives are there. I've never met them, but apparently my parents have also set up shop there. And I thought, okay, I guess I come and visit them. And at that time, I was working corporate for another company, and the company wanted me to be the head of the.
Oh, you there? Oh, Lorenzo, are you there?
And somehow I stayed here for about 6 years, where I thought that I would only be here for 6 months. So it was
Oh,
more of a corporate move than anything. The corporates that I was working for, they got me to go here because that they thought there was business here, which was true for at least for 6 years. It changed. Everything changed this year, and I worked as a consultant for a lot of things, a lot of companies, and a lot of subjects for a long time. And public speaking was really just my hobby on the side. It did help in my work, though. It did help in my work. And I was the hype man for a lot of scientific products for a very, very long time until around this year. Yeah.
gotcha. Wow, that sounds like a journey. How does so? I'm kind of curious. I'm more.
Uh,
Um,
uh, did you say something, Daniel? Because after I talked about scientific products, I can't hear you anymore.
yeah. Hello, you there? Lorenzo, you there? Oh shoot. Hold on. Shoot, technical difficulties. Can you hear me? Can you? Yeah, I see the green, but I can't hear the sound. Let me leave and join again. Can you hear me now?
Yep, I can hear you now, Daniel.
Okay. So, what? So, just in case if that happens again, what I'll do is because you were talking for a little bit and then you cut out for a second or two, and there was just silence, and then you kept going. So, if there's something like that again, and you finish, and I try and start talking like, "Oh, I don't hear you," just let me leave again, and then we'll just keep going. Sound good?
Yeah. So to make it clear, if I'm talking and then I can't hear you, you'll just leave again and come in, right?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
okay, so if that happens to me, I will. Can I just send a message to you? I'm not getting.
Yeah,
Just send a
sure.
message, text message, and then if you're not hearing me, I'll just leave and then come back again. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So you said that, and I'm going to ask you probably some of the some questions that you just answered, but because you cut out, I just kind of want to put some pieces together. You
Yeah.
were you were born in Singapore, and you said that your
Mhm.
family was like 3 generations from China or something like that.
Yeah. Well, technically, all Chinese people come from China, but in Singapore's case, there were a lot of immigrants who
Oh,
came
I
to
see.
Singapore from about 100 years ago due to reasons, and then mostly economic in nature. And so the Chinese people living in Singapore are mostly from mainland China, but they don't really have any roots there. Nowadays, it's reversed because there's a huge wave of immigration coming this way from China. So maybe you could say that it's a new wave of immigration. But traditionally, for people who have been living on the island for quite some time, yeah, for Chinese people, a lot of people come from mainland China. But I do have family here in the mainland.
Mhm.
But I don't really talk to them that much because they live so far away.
Yeah. Gotcha. And then,
Mm.
so you kind of have family, from China and Singapore, and then how did you said you got a corporate public speaking job, right?
No. My public speaking is mostly a hobby. The corporate
Oh, I
side
see.
is my day job, and
Gotcha. Okay.
the corporate side is yeah. So when corporate told me you gotta set up shop in China because there's money to be made, and then I was like very skeptical and all that. But I guess they'll put anybody who has the ability to speak Chinese and English at the same time in this position because it's very beneficial to them. Very beneficial.
Gotcha. Okay. So, yeah, all right. That's kind of cool. So the way that you got this job, was it just kind of out of the blue? Like, did they contact your family, or how does a company just kind of reach out to say, "Hey, Lorenzo, I want to give you a corporate job"? How did that work? Or did you apply for it like a normal position?
Well, nowadays, you will find it very, very difficult to apply for such a position. But at that time, my friend was setting up some sort of consulting company, and she wanted it to be some sort of startup. And then it went on for about a year, and I was recommending a lot of people to her because in our circle of people of professionals who know each other. We try to recommend each other, and I didn't really join the job for about the first year and a half, I think. And then I was recommending people, a lot of people, and then finally she said, "Well, why don't you come and help me out?" Because at that time there was a lot of internal bickering within the company, and then because when a lot of talented people get together, they don't really work that well together,
Yeah, yeah.
and because a lot of so a lot of the people that I recommended were working in pretty high positions. They were taking on a lot of responsibility at that time. So I was brought in mostly as some sort of HR slash clean up duty kind of guy to make sure that we don't have that much internal friction and try to get the different heads of the departments to communicate with each other. I slowly edged into getting
Oh, we cut out
to
again.
business really. But yeah, okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. You're good now.
Okay, so I slowly edged into consulting business through writing reports mostly, and and I'm pretty sure that the boss lady would say, well, that's the only thing that he's really good at, which is writing very detailed reports, because that was what I did in literature class really, which was
Mm.
to analyze stuff and then put it into report form. But I'm now just doing it from the business side, which I had a little bit of training because I did a little bit of political science at school.
Okay, gotcha. So where does this whole political science, public speaking thing come from? Like where is your passion with that? Did that just kind of come out of the blue, or was it something that your family tried to egg you on to, or how did that all come into play?
Well, the public speaking thing really came from university. So in universities you have these club fairs where all the clubs in the university would come out, and then they would display their best side to the public or the prospective students so that they get people to join the club.
Yeah.
And one of these clubs was this very small booth called the Toastmasters Club, and I noticed that there was the people there who were manning the booth were very energetic and very enthusiastic about the club. And I did not know what exactly that they were up to, because I was trying to look for a poker club at that time. Didn't exist, still doesn't exist. But and I thought, Toastmasters, what exactly does that mean? And they were very kind enough to very kind enough to introduce me to what exactly is the Toastmasters, which I'll refer to as the club from now on,
Okay.
which is really an amazing place where amazing people gather. Most people, they will do prepared speeches if you are a member, and there are many little chances to practice on a stage with a live audience. And they told me, well, we have this major event called the Open Day the next week, so maybe you'd like to come. And I was very impressed, and they left me a poster. I left my contact, and they were very good with the follow up. They texted me, reminded me of the whole thing. So I definitely showed up, and the open day was just a really amazing blast of a time. And I was sitting on the front row for some strange reason. Like, I had the best seats in the entire auditorium, and I was able to see up close the club mentor, who was someone from not from that club, from another club, who was helping out the club as a advisor or a consultant sort of role. And that was one of the most amazing speakers I've ever seen, and one of the most dedicated ones too, because he stayed with the club for a very long time and helped the club through its worst moments and was there for the best as well. And I think that's something that I really wanted to emulate. So that's why I've stayed with my own club in the Middle Kingdom for such a long time. I guess I wanted to I guess I wanted to emulate him a little bit, because I like that amount of dedication. I think that dedication is a pretty important trait to have. So I also wanted to thank the people who were kind to me inside the club, because it's not something that you will see in the corporate world very often. Yeah.
Gotcha. So it was kind of just like, you wanted to almost embody this guy's, dedication and everything, but then you also wanted to be that one boss that everyone likes by like congratulating people and, just honestly sounds like you just wanted to be kind.
Yes, well, you could say that the being the boss that wanted to congratulate anyone didn't really come to it, but you do hit a good point, which was to be kind, because it's a very very rare trait in the corporate world, especially in the business that I'm in,
Mm.
because and the location I'm in, because there's a lot of stuff, a lot of very very dark stories that you probably don't want to hear about. Yeah, that happened that I've seen, and I can tell you that it's not a pretty place. It's not a
Yeah.
pretty place. The corporate world is not a very pretty place. But here in the club in Toastmasters, I've always found that it's a great refuge. Nobody will ask me to loan them any money. Nobody
Mm.
will ask me for influence. It's a very very
Oh,
is untouched
okay.
by a lot of stuff. So I enjoy the club very well. And public speaking is really just a way to practice your practice your skills that you learn by
Mm.
interacting, just talking with the people in the club. Because like begets like. Because I think that people who come from my corporate world, they would not survive very well in the club, because it is very antithetical to what they believe in. But I like the club very much because it is a very happy place, and the people there are very good, very excellent people.
Gotcha. So, real quick, I'm kind of curious. Would you mind maybe telling me? You said like there's some dark stories.
Oh yeah.
Would you mind maybe telling me one that's, of course, not like too terribly graphic, but maybe one that kind of sticks out in your mind that just kind of shows the filth, if you will, of the corporate world?
Okay. All right. Let me think. So I have too many to tell, but okay. But I'll tell you the one that really really stuck in my mind for a very very long time, because once upon a time, actually 4 years ago, I was invited to the investment meeting for a certain startup.
Okay.
But it was not a startup. It was very very well funded and very very lavish. They got us to a sort of a very lavish hotel, and that was bordering on farmland. And I realized that, hey, the entire thing doesn't really make any sense at all, because I read through the introduction pamphlets, and I realized that the scientific theories that were underpinning the theory behind this guy, the guy who was supporting the entire project, does not work at all. Because
Mm.
okay, one of the things that stuck out to me, because it was right there on the front page of the entire thing, was that the human brain only uses 10% of your mind. And it boggled my mind that this was here, because this is not something that you should see in a scientific paper, because this is mostly a quote that is attributed to Einstein, but by itself, it has no scientific basis. So
Yeah.
so I thought, okay, maybe it's a marketing shield technique or something. And I wanted to let that slide off. But the more I got on, the more I realized that these guys didn't really know what they were talking about. And the worst of all, they were from another organization from mine. Not we haven't started working yet. And I realized that these guys were definitely not business trained. They were not even scientifically trained. So why was I working with them? Well, they had a lot of money. That was why. And I realized that, well, this is really not for me. And then I pulled out immediately, which was a good idea, because they
Mm.
ran into a lot of problems these days. So
Wow.
yeah, I can't tell you the organization's name.
Yeah,
So
of course.
thankfully, not for that. But this is just one of the many 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 things. This is just one really minor thing. But I think that if you are going to want to be the pillar of a scientific community, you really shouldn't put these kind of things on your introduction pamphlets. Like, be a bit more professional about it. Yeah, something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Be professional, but then also, have some sort of proof or some sort of evidence to at least back it up if that's what you're going to do. Because you can't, like you said, you can't just put this stuff out there and not have any sort of way to back it up, or just because one person might have said it but then there's no proof that it's true doesn't mean that it's true. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. Because they were using this one line to spiral out into a very very far-fetched
Oof.
scientific theory that they were promoting. So I didn't like that. I told everyone that, hey, there's something wrong about that. But because I think that most people did not see things the way I did, and then these guys, they went on to work with them. But I left. But I was very glad that I left, because otherwise I would have been in a much more bigger mountain of debt right now.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm kind of curious. This company that you work for, if you're able to
Mhm.
say, is it located in China?
The division that I was heading was located in China, but its headquarters are now in Singapore. So it's a very we work differently. We work differently nowadays because there's a lot of money that needs to be funneled through, and then we don't really like to deal with the taxman and all this. But the main idea is that headquarters, the main arm of the consulting company, is in Singapore right now. But for China, we recently closed up shop because of prevailing circumstances, as they say in WWE.
Gotcha. So then, when you would typically do your job, would it be in Singapore then?
I would be in China. I've
You
been
would
in
be in China.
China
Okay.
for last six
Oh, that's
years.
right. You
So
said that. My apologies. You said that. Yeah.
yeah.
Gotcha. Because I'm kind of curious how different is, and I'm not sure if you can, you might be able to speak to this. How different is it working in China compared to Singapore? Is it very constricting? Because I know that the government is very different in China compared to most places in the world. So is there like barriers or hardships or something that you have to jump through, some like hoops or something, or is it rather easy?
Oh yes. Oh yes. There are a lot of differences. Culturally, there are not that many differences because Asian people believe in almost the same thing: hard work, diligence, and all that jazz.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of government restrictions, especially on foreign companies in the mainland. Uh, then there are a lot of barriers that I could go through. That and just to talk about our own industry, there's because we work in production, so there is a lot of that. It changes with whatever the heads of states want it to be. So, for example, if they wanted to be environmental conscious one day and not the other, it would change overnight.
Hmm.
We have a saying in ancient Chinese, which is that sometimes the imperial edicts will change overnight, and that is exactly what happened. So, to give you an idea of what it's like, there's been a very big not from the corporate world, but from my real life,
Hmm.
living around here, is that recently there's been a very big push to do compartmentalized rubbish bins. I'm not sure how to explain it to an American because you sure as heck do not have this. But the idea is that it's compulsory for everybody to separate their garbage into four bins, kind of like the Japanese. But then the problem is, it's a very top-down maneuver, and
Okay.
and when you do that, it's great for farmland, I would guess, because it would be very easy to transport it to the compost dumps and all the places that you would need to do the recycling. But the main idea doesn't really work in cities because what they did is that originally there were dustbins on every single floor, so every single floor of the high-rise buildings. Well, it doesn't happen anymore. There are no dustbins in the high-rise buildings anymore. Instead, we have one centralized dustbin at the very first floor, and you have got to take your trash through the elevator in order to dump your trash. There's no other way, and obviously, you cannot throw it out the window because, well, it might hurt someone. You might hurt
Yeah,
someone.
true.
Yeah, so it's become a huge, huge, huge inconvenience. And what's even worse is that there is a specific timing you need to adhere to in order to throw the trash. Otherwise, the dustbins at the first floor do not even open. So,
Hmm.
yeah, when you talk about barriers and all that, sure, this is like one small example, but oh my goodness, this is like annoying as hell.
Oh, wait. Wait,
Oh,
sorry.
yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought. Okay, I'm sorry. I thought you said that there was something else. My bad. I misheard you.
I say it was annoying as hell, but
Yeah,
I
gotcha.
guess you probably have to edit that out.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. The way that you came through, it was kind of crackly in my headphones, and it sounded like you were going to keep saying something. That's why I paused. I was like, "Oh, wait." But okay, no,
Oh.
that does sound really annoying. So is it? I'm just kind of curious because I was in Japan. I was in Okinawa a few years ago for 2 weeks, and I don't necessarily remember some sort of like compartmentalized trash. But is it kind of like, for example, you put all your glass bottles, here, and then all of your like paper products you put over here? Is that kind of like what you're talking about?
If only it were that simple. Okay. If only it were that simple. Okay, it's even harder to explain it because I probably have to like bring out some sort of tutorial for you. But you have got to separate your kitchen waste. You've got to separate your hazardous waste. You've got to separate it into your other waste. You've got to separate it into one other component, which I don't really know what it exactly is. But just imagine this. Just imagine this. You need like a pictogram, like some sort of meme, in order to understand how to separate each one, and you wouldn't even know. For example, if you had those, you have drank bubble tea before, right? The
Yes.
things that come in plastic bottles, and let's say you finish drinking your chocolate bubble tea. Where exactly does the trash go? Does it go into recyclables because it's plastic, or does it go into kitchen waste because you just drank food from it? It's all very, very
Mm,
confusing and all that. And to the normal person, nobody wants to jump through all these hoops. And I think that this thing is really, really symbolic of how things are run in the mainland. I won't tell you about the corporate side,
yeah.
but it's very, very symbolic of how things are run over there. The decisions that are made over there, they don't always make a lot of sense, and they do
Yeah.
harm the people at the bottom a lot.
Gotcha. So it almost sounds like to maybe to kind of sum it up, would it be like they're trying to all get to the same goal, but they're taking way too many unnecessary steps to get there?
Oh yeah. To give you a perspective, in Singapore we have garbage chutes, which means that you open up a chute, you put the garbage in, you close the chute goes all the way down to a compactor at our high-rise building.
Yeah.
A
Gotcha.
more enlightened way of doing this, so to speak. Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Yeah. Okay. I was just curious because I personally have never been to China. I've only
Mhm.
spoken to maybe one or two people from China itself. I've spoken to numerous people from Korea and a couple people from Japan. I've been to Japan and everything, but I've never actually known what it's like to be in China. The only thing that I know about China is one, they're good friends with Kim Jong Un in North Korea, and two, China is apparently a very dirty city, or excuse me, a dirty country. For the most part, once you get out of the city, apparently it's beautiful and it's gorgeous, and there's like incredible mountains and wildlife and everything. But as a whole, China's just very dirty. Is that true?
Oh yeah, when you say that, I was thinking about something that my disciple said. She was sent from another country into the mainland, and she told me one of the first things she asked is, why are all the buildings black? That is blackened with suits. In the city, you'll see this a lot because I don't think there's a lot of maintenance done on the buildings, and they're all very, very old. So you would see that over time the buildings will start to get a little bit blacker and blacker. And yes, there's a lot of pollution.
Wow.
There's a lot of gray overcast clouds almost all the time, and they're just cars everywhere. And if you go onto main streets or busy street, it's gonna be real sweltering
Wow.
because of all the. So yes, I would agree to that, but most of the time I don't really see what you would say is littering. There's very little of that. Although people, the older generation, the old grandpa generation, they
Yeah.
do spit on the ground and so much, but not so much these days because everybody has to wear masks and all that.
Yeah.
But it's okay. It's better. They have an army of cleaners now, so the situation is probably a lot better than you think. I think.
Gotcha.
But the buildings are definitely dirty. The buildings are definitely.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's disgusting. I've never heard about buildings turning black because of the soot and the pollution. That it sounds like you would have to wear a mask all the time. Is that why? So I'm not. Have you been to America before?
No, but I probably will be in next year.
Hey, cool. So, if when you do come to the States, you'll see that almost no one wears a mask, except for COVID. Everyone's wearing a mask, right? But before COVID, no one would wear a mask except those. And I'll say it like how Americans would say it would be like, why are those Asians wearing masks? Because you would see. I would assume they're Chinese people. I really can't tell the difference. Like if I'm being honest, I can't tell the difference between someone from China or Korea or Japan because I don't see a lot of people, like I'm not very aware of that. But anyway, we would get people from Asia coming over and they would all be wearing masks. Is that pretty common almost anywhere you go in China? Like people just have masks before COVID?
2020, it was more uncommon than you think. most people who I saw wearing masks on the street were motorcyclists because the carbon dioxide gets into their nose when they drive. But aside from that, very little people wear masks. What you are
Okay.
probably thinking of is Japan.
Japan. Okay.
This Japan, there's this culture of wearing masks because a lot of people are allergic to I don't know, some special plant that blossoms in the spring or something, and then they wear masks to protect against the pollen. So there is a
Oh.
tradition of wearing masks in Japan. I think you should know this. I forgot which plant it was, but this is from my knowledge. But in China, in the mainland, even in Singapore, wearing a mask is very, very rare thing before 2020.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, then I guess it would be Japan. And would that plant be by chance like a cherry blossom?
I would think so because it's some sort of sightseeing plants where they get to see
Yeah.
probably cherry blossoms, most likely
Yeah.
pollen from cherry blossom.
Gotcha. Yeah, that would kind of make sense, especially because like, they do bloom in the spring. When I was at university, my campus had some cherry blossom trees, and whenever they would bloom, my allergies would get so bad, but they were so pretty. But I didn't realize that the Japanese people wore masks because of that. That's very interesting to me. I honestly always thought that it was Chinese people because I've heard that China is just so dirty. That,
Oh, I
that
guess people learn to live with it after
yeah.
some time. Mm.
Interesting, interesting. That's really cool. Man, this is fun. I'm learning a lot about Asian cultures, kind of in general, just like the basics of it. What would you say would be like a so maybe this question is a little redundant, but you said that Singapore, there are a lot of people that come over from China, and so there's probably a huge Chinese influence on the people of Singapore, or at least the Singapore culture. What would be some of the like bigger influences that you would see from China to like a typical Singapore person?
Well, this is a pretty hard question to answer, but all right, I don't think that there are many cultural barriers or anything because most of the culture is more or less the same. I think that it's more
Okay.
of a behavioral, because let's talk about this in the terms of conflicts and
Okay.
rather than similarities, because too many similarities, too many.
Okay. Okay.
Because Singaporeans and Chinese are more or less the same kind of people. But in terms of conflict, there has been quite a lot of upheaval in Singapore regarding excessive immigration and so on, just like in America. But for ours, it's a little bit different because even though they look the same, they do not behave exactly the same because there are some cultural differences. For example, you would never poop in the streets, right?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So Singaporeans do not do that. But there are a lot of. But if you flip through the last couple of years of reports, there have always been this sort of outrage at uncouth, uncivilized mainlanders coming to Singapore and then wrecking stuff up. So this is just one piece of conflict, but it's been getting a little bit better these years because
Mm.
I don't hear as much outrage anymore. But another point of conflict would be jobs, just like any other immigration policy in the world. Any other minister will have to deal with the idea of, well, somebody is going to come over and just like in Southwark, they're going to shout, oh, well, they're going to take our jobs or something like that. So
Mm-hmm.
it's always been a very big conflict because most mainlanders do not speak English. And this has been a very, very big contention because if you do not speak English, it's like playing with a handicap in Singapore.
Mm.
And you can't really talk to everybody in the island. And it becomes really, really, really annoying because people are used to be able to communicate with everybody in the island. So that is another point of conflict. If you
Mm.
cannot speak English, you will be at a disadvantage and you will be kind of seen as a bit of an outsider in the island. And these are just very, very small things.
Yeah.
There's also the issue of conscription and so on, but it's a very, very complex issue. So the main idea is that immigrants do not have to do conscription, and people in Singapore have to. But that's about it. That's
Mm.
about it. There's a lot of little, small, little, minor conflicts that revolve around these, but I think these are the big three.
Gotcha. That's interesting. I never really realized that there were um so many. I shouldn't say so many because you only told me three, but it sounded like there was more. But I didn't realize that there were conflicts between China and Singapore. I thought that you guys were pretty hand in hand for the most part. I'm kind of curious.
For the most part, yes. For the most part,
For the
yes.
most part, okay, gotcha. For the most part, I'm kind of curious how so. I know that in Japan, this will be the last cultural question I ask, by the way. Like, I'm just I love culture, and you being from Singapore and also living in China, it's kind of given me, that little bit of opportunity just to, see what it's like a little bit because I just love it. But like I said, I've been to Japan, and I know that Japan is very family oriented and also just very, very polite. Like the Japanese culture is phenomenal. It's a beautiful culture. Would you say that the Chinese culture and the Singaporean culture are family oriented? Like, what are your cultures pretty much in terms of family and that sort of thing? Respect
I
too.
guess that I guess that they would be quite family oriented because, as you know, for Chinese New Year, there's a huge move of people during Chinese New Year because everybody is rushing back to their hometown to see their families. And even if their families are really, really far away, they would still go back to see their families and then just celebrate Chinese New Year with them because it's very, very important. So everybody in the mainland just stops their work on that week just so that they can take a train all the way back up north, like 9 hours away somewhat, and then come back to the city 1 week later, and then they be happy. So in terms of family, I guess it here it is pretty strong, very, 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 very well regarded around here. As in terms of respect and all that culturally, I think there might be a little bit of a difference from Japan because I know a little bit of about Japanese culture as well. There is a lot of there's a lot of deference to authority and all that. There's still a little bit of that in the corporate side, is that you must obey your superiors and all this thing.
Yeah.
But for my interaction, I've met more than my fair share of people who were rude, people who just didn't really care very much about, not very civilized, so to speak. But this has been getting better in the last couple of years. But to give you another example from the metro station, from my real life, there are still people that, because in Singapore there would be it is considered impolite to go in, like when you wait in front of metro of for the train in the metro station, you wait in line, right? That's what most people would do in Singapore. You will wait in line. But here in the mainland, you got people trying to itch in from these sides and trying to get one over you. And then they try to, I want to get into the train first. And then when the train doors open, everybody is trying to get out. But then the guys at the sides and then the very, very, very gung-ho people, they want to get in first. They want to be first. So in terms of that, you probably will not have seen that in Japan. It's probably a very jarring experience if you go to the mainland. But it's gotten a lot more better in the recent years. And I mostly attribute this to more train stations being built because the old train station was really, really overloaded at that time. So it's more of to me, it's more of an infrastructure thing, and it's more about a people thing because not everyone was brought up to do unto others what others unto you. That kind of mentality. Try to be nice to other people and all that. Yeah. So I can understand, but I don't really tolerate that. Yes.
Gotcha. Yeah, like I just want to say, like, thanks for helping me understand a little bit more about that. I'm sorry, if it just seems like a cultural talk. Like I said, I find it very interesting, but it's really cool to me just to kind of see the differences, but also the similarities in some things. And of course, never being there, like I personally haven't been there to China, like I said, and so I haven't been able to experience that. But that's really cool. That's really, really freaking neat, dude. I like hearing about that stuff.
That it's great to talk about these kind of things because I was thinking of writing a very small journal or book about these things, and I did write about this train station thing in one of my speeches before, so I'm quite happy to share it with you guys.
Oh yeah, thank you, I appreciate it. So moving away from culture a little bit because I kind of want to know you a little bit more. Like the whole reason of this podcast is to get to know you. So tell me a little bit about your you say you like video games, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. So what do you do? What do you play? Are you a PC guy or are you some sort of PlayStation guy or like what do you play on?
Oh yeah. I'm definitely a PC Master Race guy.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, there we go.
I to be very honest, I've never played on consoles except for a couple of years ago where I managed to get my hands on Ultimate versus Marvel versus Capcom 3, and that was probably the only game I played on console. But
Mm.
I've almost exclusively been a PC guy for almost my entire life, playing on the worst laptops imaginable, the
Oh
most
no.
low-end laptops imaginable. So can you imagine it? Playing Skyrim on the lowest settings on
No.
a MacBook Air.
Oh my goodness, how do you do that? I can't. I mean, like, if you have to, you have to. But how the heck do you do that, man? Like, here I'm sitting. I'm recording on my PC that I built. You know, I have a RTX 2060. You know, I have pretty. At the time they were good components, but now they're like crap. But how do you freaking play on a laptop?
A lot of willpower and determination to play Skyrim.
Oh my
Okay, so
goodness.
you know that Macs, they have this proprietary system. The OS is proprietary, right? So I had to install Windows. I had to install Windows on the Mac itself, separate the
Yeah.
partition the hard drive, and then get a Windows working. Then I had to work around the mainland sensors to get Steam downloading. Then I had to make sure that I had to re-download every single drive every single graphics drive for Windows, just so that I could play Skyrim on
Holy.
800 times 600 pixels in a
Wow.
window.
Oh my goodness. You went through all that work to play Skyrim at such an awful quality, man. Kudos to you. Wait, so hold on. You said that you had to go around the Chinese national firewall, whatever it was, to download Steam?
Oh, no, no, no. I to be very honest, I didn't really have to go through the entire firewall, but I had to jump through a few hoops in order to
Yeah.
get to the website because everything is blocked in mainland, and sometimes Steam will not connect. Even now, even a few days ago, my Steam did not connect, and then I had to wait a few days before. Oh, it's magically back on again.
Wait. So what is blocked in the mainland? Like you say you can't go on Steam. I'm pretty sure Twitch is blocked in China as well. Like what else is blocked?
Yes. Steam is sometimes blocked, sometimes not blocked, but the community there is definitely blocked. That means the screenshots, the comment section, videos are 100% blocked. As you know, YouTube is also blocked there. So basically, any what you would consider essential Western social media is blocked there, and who knows a lot of sites. So there's always this really really strange sense, like when you go to a website and you can't access it. Is it blocked or is it not blocked? And I can't quite know.
Whoa, you say that YouTube is blocked?
Yeah.
Ho-
I thought that was common knowledge in America,
Oh,
but okay.
no, I knew that Facebook was. Well, I'm pretty sure Facebook is, yeah?
Yeah, yeah, it
Yeah.
definitely is.
Yes, Facebook. I didn't know Steam was blocked. I knew that Twitch
Uh,
was blocked, and I didn't know. Well, I might have known that YouTube was blocked, but when you said that, I was
hmm.
like in shock. So I guess I didn't know that. But like, why is all of that blocked?
Well,
Do you know?
official, officially is to prevent, outside influence into the country because people might get ideas. People might get ideas, watching so many things, they
Uh,
might get smart and all that.
gotcha. So they're just trying to keep
Hmm.
the power is all. Gotcha.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Gotcha. So kind of going back to video games, like I said, I didn't know about this. Anyway, video games. What is it? I would assume that Skyrim is your favorite game, but without putting words in your mouth, what is your favorite video game?
Wow, that is really, really hard. But I think it's probably Skyrim by a large mark. I have more than 1,000 hours on that because
Wow.
I play
Oh.
a lot more. I wish I could play a lot more multiplayer games. I like the Total War series for a
Okay.
very, very long time. But I was really, really more into the multiplayer side of the Total War series. So when I was younger, the before Skyrim, the most played game for me was Total War Shogun 2, which was based in Japan. And then I played a lot of multiplayer back then. So you probably can see a guide there's a guide that I wrote on Steam just for that game. So it went into
Oh,
details about unit composition and so on. So yeah, I like both games very, very much.
man, that's cool. That's cool. You're
Mm.
playing, Skyrim, and Skyrim is definitely an older game. Are you excited for Cyberpunk?
Oh, it's a different setting. I don't
Yeah.
think I will be playing Cyberpunk. I know a lot of friends are very, very
Oh.
excited for it, but I never really bought into the hype of Cyberpunk because I'm more of a high fantasy guy. I like my dragons, my
Oh.
elves, and so on. So the neon futuristic thing, it's fine. It's cool, but it's really not for me unless you can somehow find me vampires with, I don't know, cybernetic implants or something.
Gotcha.
So yeah.
So when you say high fantasy, are you also like into reading and stuff when it comes to? Because for example, I know that there are some high fantasy novels and stuff, or a series of books. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I do know that that's out there. Are you into reading and stuff?
Oh yeah, I definitely am into reading. I'm very much a writer, a reader, and a speaker. So I'm
Okay.
a very arts guy. So the thing that probably is trying to come into your mind is probably the famous Lord of the Rings, isn't it?
Yeah,
Because
yeah, yeah, yeah. I love it. I love it.
yes, so Lord of the Rings is pretty much the highest point of high fantasy. Very beautifully well written. I remember reading Lord of the Rings when I was very young, and I was like very, very immersed in it. And then when I was in school, we had this collection of Narnia, the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe books lying
Yep.
around in the bookshelf. So that was also what I picked up, and I really just liked the fantasy settings. Nowadays I'm a little bit older and I don't have time to read very, very thick books anymore. So I'm almost a little bit ashamed to say this, but
Mm.
I do read a little bit a lot of Japanese isekai, which is basically fantasy, but some guy from the modern world is transported into the fantasy world. I like it just for the
Mm.
very charming effect,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and
No.
it's not that great of fiction, but when it's funny and it's weird and it's quirky, it's really, really funny and weird and
Mm.
quirky.
Let me
Mm.
suggest you a book series that I personally have only read like one or two of the books, but I've heard that it is critically acclaimed to just be amazing. It's called The Wheel of Time. The Wheel of Time series, not a trilogy, a series. If you're
Mm.
into high fantasy and you like wizards and all that stuff, I would consider looking into that just because I've heard that they're amazing books. This guy, the author Robert Jord, I think it's Jourdain, not Jordan, but Jourdain. He spent, I think it was from like maybe 30 years old till the day he died writing these books. Like that was his life. So I would definitely look that up if you're into, if you want to maybe sock a couple years of your life into some books. That I've heard that is very, very good.
I definitely will take you up on that recommendation. George Dane's Wheel of Time. Funnily enough, I think I've heard something similar. I don't know if it was because it was referenced in some Skyrim mod or something, but I'll check that out. I'll check that out.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm kind of curious a little bit, and of course you don't have to really give the details of this if it's with your company and whatnot. But you said earlier that you would hopefully come to America probably next year or even maybe the year after. Where would you, or let me ask you this: why would you be coming out? Would it just be to visit, or would it be for like work and stuff?
I would probably like to work over there. Probably, because what I have been very impressed by is in America is that I made a bet with my elders that America will be the first country to stop wearing masks for this pandemic for
Yeah,
the
probably.
prevailing circumstances. So I told them, well, that was where I wanted to be, and culturally I thought that it was a better fit for me. But for me, I really wanted to get into the gun industry, which is something that you would not
Oh.
find in any other country besides Somalia, which was on my second choice, but I would have to be a pilot to get there.
Yeah, you don't want to go there. You'll get shot. That's for sure.
So I would like to be in a very civilized place where people have values that are quite aligned to mine, I think. So I
Mm.
thought about it, and then the gun industry is probably very stable in bad times and good times. I guess that some, like half the country does not like me saying this, but I'll say it anyway. I think that it's a very worthy job to work at. even if I'm just a hype man or spokesperson for a
Yeah.
company. I think it's something that I want to do. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I'll say this just so then you can kind of keep looking into it, because I would hate if this was to go south. But the whole idea behind guns is protected by our Second Amendment, which pretty much says we have the right to bear arms, which when it was written at the time meant guns. But there are a lot of people recently who have been saying no, like, why do you need a gun? And so I say all that not to douse your dreams or anything, but just to maybe look into it a little bit, because I would hate for it if you were to come out here because you wanted to work in the gun industry, but yet guns were illegal. So I would look into that just a little bit, but no, it's true. There's so many people out here, especially more Texas or central United States, where guns are totally fine. I know of my father actually is a big hunter. He loves hunting, and like he's killed elk before, he's killed white-tailed deer before. He loves bird hunting, so he's gone bird hunting. I've gone bird hunting. I've killed a deer as well, which is, I don't want to say empowering because that sounds really weird and just not very good, but like when you do go hunting and you do shoot something, there, I don't know, it's a weird feeling. Like I felt sad for the animal, but it was also like I conquered that. I don't know, that it sounds weird, but the gun industry is very, very cool. I know some friends of mine who are into, what is it called, sports shooting or something like that. Like they have a course that's set up for them, and they start at the starting line with a pistol on their hip, and they go through and they have to hit all the targets and get across the finish line first. And it's like a time trial thing, so like one person would go, they would set everything back up, the next person would go, but it's really cool to see all that. And guns are fun to shoot. I'll be honest with you, guns are super fun to shoot. And I do think that guns themselves are pieces of art pretty much, because there are so many little bits and pieces that go into it, and not to mention the bullet itself, and trying to do all the science behind it to make sure that the bullet flies straight and all that. It's really cool. I like to hear that you are into that stuff, because you don't hear of a lot of people outside of the States that want to come in and invest time into weaponry. That's really, really neat to me.
Oh yeah, that's why I said that I'm probably a little weird for saying this, because in my country this concept is kind of foreign to people. So just now you were talking about the Second Amendment. So to me that seems like a pretty like no-brainer kind of thing. But when I was in university and I was telling people about this thing, like you would probably need guns in order to prevent a tyrannical government. And to people in Singapore, they have never seen this before. They've never had the concept of the idea of not the government not taking care of every aspect of their life. So I'm more of just leave people alone kind of guy. Like let them do what they want, and then to me it probably is more of a symbolism, a symbolic thing that you when you hold a gun, it's you are free to, so to speak.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying, and it's not in, and I just want to preface this, at least in my experience, so that the people that are listening are like, man, these guys are weird. Like when you hold one, it's not like some sort of like empowering feeling in the sense of like, man, I can go kill someone. No. It's just to be able to hold something like that in your hand. It like, I think one of the best ways to put it is when you got your first car, at least, those who have driven, when you got into your first car and you were able to hold the steering wheel and you're like, man, I can drive now. I feel like that's kind of the same, maybe generalized feeling when you hold a gun for the first time. I think that's probably one of the best comparisons.
I think that's I can get the feeling of it. For me, it was more of a professional thing, as you know,
Oh, okay.
conscription and all this. So I was probably I was doing a little bit of guard duty, and we had to hold guns all the time. So to me, it was a very normal kind of feeling. So I maybe I didn't have that kind of feeling that you have, because to me it's just it's just something that you
Yeah.
do. It's just something that you do. But I can understand that feeling, because probably 99% of people in Singapore will not have the same concepts that the both of us are talking about right now.
Yeah. I didn't realize that. So real quick, I'm just kind of curious. When you said, that you had to hold a gun and everything, was that for the Singapore government, like guarding the lines of the country?
Conscription is not my proudest moments, but when you are a conscript, you get to hold a gun to guard bases and all this. Depends on where you get posted. So yeah.
Gotcha. Oh, I didn't realize that conscription was also known as the draft. My bad. I when you said that word, I was like, oh, I know what that means. It was definitely not what I thought it was. But I see now. I understand now. Gotcha. Uh, man, it would be awesome to come to the States and have you and see you, working with guns and stuff. Where, if you don't mind me asking, just out of curiosity, if you were able to, let's just say, open up a gun shop. Let's just say that's what you wanted to do. Where would you want to set all that up? Or let me put it this way: when you do come to the States and work with guns, where would you want to be? What state or what city would you want to be in?
Very likely Arizona, because no
Oh.
matter what, Arizona will always have their guns. Uh, I would like to go there because I think that's a kind of sunny climate is more for me, because right now it's in the middle of the winter in the Middle Kingdom, and I've never done very well with winter. And
Mm.
I think that there are quite a few famous gun schools over there, so worth to take a pilgrimage there, even if it's just to take a look there to see how everything works. Second choice would be probably Virginia, because but that's more of a
Oh.
symbolic thing,
Yeah.
because to be very honest, my interest, my high time interest in that's really peaked before, a little bit before everything started this year, which was there was this really big gun rally, and back there, so to protect the rights of the people who had guns over there. And I thought that
Mhm.
it was something that was very amazing. That not a single shot was fired. Not a single shot was fired. With so many people holding guns. There was even some guy that was holding a gigantic M82, which was a like this gun, which was almost like a barrel above his head, and it was
Mhm.
just a very amazing sight that people are able to do this. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's true. And I want to say this just to kind of help people understand. There are very few. Well, I mean, let me start over. The people that do own guns, there's a lot of people that own them. There's a lot of people that own guns. Like I don't personally own any right now. My father actually has them, and whenever he comes out, he's going to give me some because I do need to start getting back into hunting because I need to buy meat, and meat is expensive. So that's kind of the whole reason why I'm going to get back into it. But I say that to say that a lot of the people that do own guns are hunters, and they're very responsible. It's not like
Mm.
you can. I think I'm not sure the process, but I do know the process is somewhat. It's a little challenging. If I just wanted to go out to wherever they sell guns, I think it's like Cabela's or something like that close by. But anyway, I want to go to the gun store and I wanted to buy a pistol or something, or I wanted to buy some sort of 30-06 or whatever it is, some sort of rifle. There's some paperwork and stuff that I have to fill out, and it's not an easy feat, but there's a little bit of a challenge there. But most people that do own guns, like they are responsible people. They might flash it. Like you can get concealed carry permits, which means I can have a pistol on my hip pretty much, even if it's concealed. Like there's a lot of steps that are put into place to protect people and also make sure that you have the right documentation to have a weapon. But you do get those few cases where people might go shoot up a school, or there will be mass shootings and stuff like that. And it sucks that that does happen and that it is with a gun. But in retrospect of everyone owning a gun, like it's maybe one or two people that lose it and will go shoot someone. You know what I mean? So it's when you say, it's really cool to see this group of people, they have all these weapons and, they're not shooting bullets or anything. They're just protesting, I'm an American, and based on the Constitution and the amendments that were put into place by the people that were, that started, the law here in America. Like I have the right to bear arms. I have the American right to have this pistol in my hand, and while I am not aiming it at you, I am not threatening, you or anything. Like I have that right. But there's also, people who don't want that. But I say all that to say, it's really cool and it's really encouraging to see, there's so many people that are safe with weapons. They do use it because hunting is a very it's not respected a lot nowadays because of the fact you're killing an animal. And I mean, to me, it's an animal. Like if you kill it and I'm being nourished by it, by the meat. Like, I feel like that's fine. And that's, a lot of people, they have weapons because of that, and then some people have it because of home defense. But I say all that to say, and I'm sorry I'm rambling on now. I say all that to say, though, it is really cool, to see how many people are very safe with their gun practices compared to, the one or two bad eggs.
You can't see me through the audio format, but I've been nodding the entire way. So yeah, I do think that you do.
Yeah, no, it's so true, and I really do wish you the best. I hope that works out for you, because I do know that it is a very well sought after market for those who care about weapons at all, because they, like I said, they are an art.
Yes.
Yeah.
I do have to do a lot more homework than this first, because I have to do research into what exactly it is that makes a gun work, like a bit of the craft. I've downloaded a bit of material, but I feel like I need to learn a lot more about like individual laws in each state
Yeah.
and everything to truly understand the situation. And when I invest over there, and I probably will have to go to school to learn about how to disassemble a real gun, because they don't really teach that during conscription. They do, but for only very specific models. I want more general knowledge and all this. So it'll be helpful for me to like be able to understand more. So probably I have got to go and play War of Guns on Steam a little bit more.
Yeah, no, it's definitely something that takes a lot of patience, just because there's so many different models and everything, but they're really cool, and I would definitely encourage you to continue to look into it. Like I said, it's a well sought after art, if you will. It's really cool. So I want to ask you one more question. All right, one more question. Well, I mean, technically speaking, I got like 2 or 3 more questions, but one more big question. All right, and then I'll let you go.
Okay.
What got you in? And I'm kind of going back to the beginning of our conversation, but I'm kind of curious. What made you go into political science, and then what did you want to do with that?
What made me go into political science, and what made me want to do with that? All right. Originally, when I was in high school, I studied literature, and my real first choice was to do literature. But as time went on, I realized literature wasn't really that for me. I don't think I will be analyzing poetry or prose for a very long time, although it does seem like I've been doing it in the club for a long time. But I wanted to go into political science mostly because I thought that I would be learning how to deal with policy. Not true, not true. I learned a lot more about the inner workings of how politics. I wanted to learn more about the inner workings of how politics works. For example, like when Congress meets, what exactly do they do? I learned mostly international relations than anything, and how countries interact with each other. And that was probably the thing that kept me going, because it was quite fascinating how each country would react to each other. And if you do this thing, and then this country will react in this way, and what does this really mean? And when I was in high school, history was something that was taught really at a very high level, and was taught well to me, because it wasn't just remembering dates, but remembering the significance. So we were learning about the Cold War back then, and it's very relevant now. Very relevant. I pity the people who have never studied the Cold War in this time and age, because they have no idea what is going on in the world right now. And I think that that history and political science, they just was a perfect match for each other. And I thought, well, I might as well give this a small little try. And somehow I started to write. It was very much a very writing process, and writing is something that I do very naturally. So that was how I managed to continue, because I just like the interplay of the relations between each country, and finding out what exactly are they all thinking. So I can kind of predict the future in this sense. Yeah.
That's cool, man. I'm very fascinated with that too. I like to understand the countries and what they're going to do. That's really neat to me, man. Cool. I like it. So then, and did you use that at all with your current profession, or was that kind of just something that you decided, I just kind of want to do it, and then once you got into it, you're like, does that make sense?
The skills that I learned doing that, writing reports, analyzing things from the art side of my education, from history, from political science, from literature. I don't think I would give them up for anything. Sure, you may laugh at people who take literature majors and that they are going to be flipping burgers for the rest of their lives, but I don't think that is the case, because it is perfectly this analysis which helped me out in everything, in my work,
Mm.
in the club, just everything. Because in the club we have this thing called evaluations, where you've got to analyze a speech, our speakers, and then tell them what exactly is it that they did well, what exactly is it that they didn't do so well, and everything comes into play here. All your thinking skills, all your writing skills, and it's all on the fly, on the spot. Just like in my work at consulting, it's the exact same. Some client asks you a question, you're put on the spot. You gotta answer him immediately, or you kind of lose face in front of him. So I
Mm.
think that it all connects back together, and I would not give it up for anything at all. Even if you told me you're going to magically become Albert Einstein and you can be a biologist, I still wouldn't. I probably wouldn't give up my arts education for anything.
Gotcha. Man, that's really cool. I like that. So, I want to kind of wrap things up here. First, I want to say thank you so much for giving me, this time to talk with you and to learn so much. I feel like you really educated me on a lot when it comes to who you are and, just Asian cultures, I'll say in general. It was phenomenal, man. I really, really did enjoy this. This was awesome. But there's two more things I want to ask you. One, this is the one thing that I like to ask everyone that comes on the show, because one of the reasons that I started Across the Pond was I like to understand people. I like to understand them. I like to, understand why they do what they do, their thoughts and why they think those thoughts. But this question, I feel like, embodies that. So what would be like a piece of advice or, a saying or something that you've held on to as a kid, or maybe something that you've just recently grabbed onto, that you hold on to that, kind of helps direct your life, but like that one piece of advice that you're like, man, someone needs to hear that?
Oh yeah, my one piece of advice to anyone listening to this is to find the people that you like. Find the people that have the common interests with you. Find the people who have the common values as you, and cherish them. Stick with them for a very, very long time. You will find that this is a very, very rewarding thing to do, because not everybody is going to like you in life. But when you do find that crowd that does like you, that does appreciate what you do, stick with them for a very long time, and you will find that your life will be dramatically better when you hang out with the people that you do like, instead of the people that you are forced to like.
That's good. That's good, man. Awesome. Cool. Well, again, like I said earlier, I'm going to give you another chance to shout out your podcast. So go ahead and shout out your podcast, and then anything else that you want to share, social media or whatever it is, that you use.
All right, I don't really have much social media, but I do have a very small podcast called Light Up the Stage. Light Up the Stage is a podcast about my public speaking journeys in the mainland, and I talk about little stories that I've made and encountered, little things that I have done over the past 7 years as a public speaker in the club. So I give a little bit about technique, but most of it's going to be a storytelling podcast, and I'm going to tell you little stories about my little life. And I do think that my podcast is hosted on podomatic.com right now, so you can check podomatic.com/light on the stage. Also on Apple Podcasts as well. So if you're into public speaking and small stories of the shots, I would recommend you to check out my podcast. And thank you, Daniel. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I'll be sure, because I have your thing right here, the link to your podcast. I'll be sure to put that in the notes so people can find you. But
All
yeah,
right, thank you.
yeah, I want to say thanks again, man, for doing this. This was really, really cool. I hope you have a great Tuesday. Because the time difference is a little bit as of right now.
Yeah.
It's what, 8 o'clock on Monday night for me, and so it's what, probably 12:30, whatever time zone you're in over there. So
Yep.
I hope I hope you have a great week, man. Stay safe over there with COVID and everything. I'm not too sure what it's like and whatnot, but I wish you the best in terms of getting over here to the States and following your dream with the whole gun thing. Like, that sounds really, really cool. I really do like that.
Thank you, Daniel, and I hope that you have a successful podcast as well, because I definitely way to do that already. You already are very, very successful, and I enjoyed this chat with you just as much as you did. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Daniel.
Yeah, of course. Take it easy, man. Please stay safe and everything. And I'll shoot you an email when your podcast goes live. And just so you know, it's probably going to be about a month and a half because I do have a decent amount backlogged. So then I can take a little bit of a break for Christmas and New Year's and all that.
Yep, it's okay with me because I think I was all about this already. But yeah, I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that.
Awesome, sweet. Thank you so much. Anyway, thanks again, Lorenzo. This was really fun. I really did enjoy this one. I hope you can tell that in my voice and everything. But please take it easy. You know, enjoy your week and everything. And I'll talk to you later.
All right. Good.
All right.
Good night to you then, Daniel.
Yeah. Good afternoon. Take it easy. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Across the Pond. Please share this with your friends and family, as well as giving my email to someone you think would love to star on an episode of the show. Connect with me on Twitter, find us on YouTube, and please consider checking out Patreon if you would like to be a part of Across the Pond. Thanks to Mark for the logo, and for the Black Couch label and Ollie H for the music. Tune in next Sunday for another awesome episode of Across the Pond.